It's a good looking number, folks. I like that. All those zeros lined up. Let's add one more of those. That would be pretty special, too. Welcome to the Voice of College Football on a Friday night. Hope you were able to take in our West Virginia show, talking Mountaineers for the last 60 minutes with Travis Kenobi from Last Word on College Football. Now we talk college football with you for the next 15 minutes, 20 minutes, 2 hours, 6 hours. I don't know. We'll see. I don't have any kind of grand speech to make except to say thank you for 100,000 subscribers. So that's all the team channels put together. You've not misread the subscriber count on the main channel. We're around 35,000, going on 36,000 subscribers. I think we'll be there within the next day or two. But when you add it all up, which I've done a couple times now, I'm not keeping a counter every day, but I knew we were getting close because I eyeballed it and went 35 plus 15. Yeah, it's about 100,000. And did that. I did it a week ago, and we were about 700 subs short. And I was like, oh, okay, we'll see where we stand a week from now. And bam, there we are, 100,000 subscribers here at the Voice of College Football with all the team channels, not discounting the 93 subs on the Wisconsin channel. Don't want to do that. But again, thank you for being here. We will leave the link in the live chat so you can join us to talk college football. And yes, so we can talk college football. And unlike last night's show, where I had just a page full of notes leading into the show that I wanted to address concerning all sorts of comments made at ACC kickoff and SEC media days and other things I had seen on social media, I really got nothing for you except that we are looking at 6 weeks to college football. 6 weeks minus 1 day. And it's Penn State, Purdue on the field. It's West Virginia, Pitt, backyard brawl Thursday night. That's going to be fun, and that's why we're here. So again, thank you for being here. Appreciate you all being here to talk college football. Let me grab the link and get it down in the description section. And we will get to it. See. There we go. The link's in the live chat. You can join us there. Thank you so much for the super chat coming in right here from Nick. Nick, thank you so much. I'm kicking it off. Who's next to super chat? Congratulations, Mark. Nick, thank you so much for that. That is very kind of you. Appreciate that. We don't have to focus on the 100,000 subs. Yes. And what are we celebrating here tonight? We are celebrating with a blank wall. When I celebrated 5,000 subs, was it 5? No, it was 10. I think it was 10. I do recall the month and year because I had a trip the next day. Our 10,000 subs here on the main channel, this was in May of 2019. So just about 3 years ago. In 2019, we celebrated 10,000 subscribers. I was as happy as could be. Brought in a cake. I had the bakery write out the 100,000 subs or whatever I had on it, or 10,000 subs. And had balloons, streamers, hats. We're subdued tonight. We're going to be subdued tonight. We're going to blow it out big when we hit 100,000 subs on the main channel. Yes, that's when we'll do it up big. Also appreciate the super chat coming in from Dirtfish. Thank you so much for that, Dirtfish. Congrats, Mark. Go Canes. Miami fans, you probably know this already. We do have a Miami channel that has contributed about 8,000 subs to the total. And we go live there every Wednesday and Thursday night. Great channel, great analysis, Wholesome One, Cam Underwood, of course, and others. So check us out on the Miami channel. And again, I have left the link to join the show down in the chat. Let's bring in our first call of the night. We got Hunter on the line from Alabama. Hunter, how you doing?
Congratulations, Mark.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
I can't say that I've been there from the beginning, but I really love the content that you put out and throughout the year. It really helps when the season ends to have something to come back to kind of stay in the football spirit, so to speak.
I appreciate that. And for all the content that we produce, you know what? I would like to produce a lot more. I've got a ton of ideas of things I would want to. I spent my late night last night. I was going through TV ratings, and I'm going to be producing a series where I'm going through how much each team was watched last season. And then I may do like the last 5 years or something like that. I don't know if people are going to be interested in that, but I'm going to put it out there.
Well, I got a question for you. There's something that I've heard thrown around over the last few years. And I want to see if you agree with the sentiment. Do you think that Nick Saban and the Alabama dominance that has happened over the past decade or so, that it hurts the sport to have Alabama in the national championship just about every year?
Does it hurt the sport? That is a great question. I've heard the same thing.
But my thing is, okay, now I am biased. Don't get me wrong. I'm an Alabama fan, diehard Alabama fan. But if this was Ohio State, per se, I wouldn't be mad. I would be a little frustrated that it wasn't my team. But I feel like that you got to respect greatness while it's there. And right now we're just in an era where Nick Saban is the best at what he does. So we have to get to some level. You have to respect that and go, well, it might be aggravating, but it's just like when Michael Jordan played. You know, when people might have been, oh, he talked about the greatest of all time. Well, I mean, that's just the nature comes with the territory when you achieve that level of success.
So when you started to ask the question, that was the first vision that came to my mind, and the first name was Michael Jordan, because I thought the NBA might have been more successful then and more popular than it's ever been. That popularity for the NBA actually started about a decade earlier, roughly, when it was Bird and Magic, Celtics and Lakers. So maybe that's the formula that's lends itself to more popularity and more intrigue, is when you have two great forces matching up, you know, Cowboys, Steelers, Lakers.
Well, you have Clemson, Alabama for a good 5 years, where it's been those are the two top programs.
Yeah. Is it?
I don't know. I don't know if it comes from haters or if it is just, or if it's just a frustration thing that their team's not in it.
Oh, it's frustration. Sure, it's frustration.
Well, I can say the same thing about in the sports analyst world, especially ESPN. I get a little aggravated hearing about Ohio State a lot on those broadcasts.
You said that before.
I've said that before, yeah, yeah. So, but I'm not mad. I understand that a lot of those guys graduated from Ohio State, but it is aggravating when you hear when Ohio State has. I'm not saying they're not a great program; they are, but I mean they just haven't. To me, they're not as good as what they hype them up to be every year. I mean, that one year that they played us in the national championship, I think that game would have been a lot closer had they not had some injuries and some off the field issues with that game. But I can say the same thing about that. So I mean, So it's just one of those things that you hear, and I guess that's just something that comes with the territory of being a fan of the program that's the most dominant.
I
And
find it
I'm
funny.
not one of these people that
I was
I
just
was
going
about
to
to say,
say,
and I'm not the
go ahead.
I was just going to say, and I'm not one of these people who jumped on the Nick Saban bandwagon once he started winning. I've been an Alabama fan since I was a little kid, since I was the Mike Sheila days, and
Yeah.
I lived, I came up through all that. So it's not like one of those situations.
I find it a little funny that, and you've stated this before, that you think Ohio State gets way too much attention and gets talked about on ESPN more than anybody else because, and I'm not saying you're wrong. I don't know. I don't sit there and measure how much ESPN talks about different teams, and it's never really struck me one way or the other because most people, I think, would have the perception that ESPN boosts the SEC for obvious reasons. They own the SEC network. They're while they have a contract with the Big Ten, they're more aligned with the SEC, and therefore they would have more incentive to push the SEC and Alabama than they do Ohio State.
Yeah. Well, I wonder what the person that I would like to ask this question who's not available to ask, but next time you talk to your friend Steve Dace, ask him because he's a Michigan guy and and I mean you're an Ohio State guy, so it might not be as So I wonder what his perspective on that would be because I find him to be very level-headed, even though he's a big Michigan fan when it comes to looking at Ohio State in particular.
I think I can make this statement. It's not. I can't confirm this, but I looked at last season's TV viewership, and I've looked at enough TV ratings over the course of my career that I think pretty consistently more people are watching Ohio State football than and again, I'm not going to state this as like it's an every year thing or any, but I'm going to just about guarantee that Ohio State is going to be either first, second, or third every year in viewership. So that plays into it as well. The fan base is extremely large.
Hmm.
So the networks are going to
So
talk about the teams that it's like the Dallas Cowboys, even when they're no good, they still get talked about.
okay, so back to my original question. I, do you think so? What do you think? Do you think it's bad for the sport, bad for the landscape of the sport, or you
I'm going
think
to
this?
change. I'm going to change your question just slightly. What I think might be bad for the sport is that the SEC dominates. So, of course, it's been first and foremost Alabama. But if you go back a few years before Saban, of course, you've got LSU and Florida winning and Auburn, and so it's been Alabama, of course, more than anybody. But it's been the entire conference that is dominated, and I think that that has given the rest of the nation some kind of fatigue, and maybe a lot of football fans that enjoy maybe both the NFL and college have maybe swayed more toward the NFL because they've kind of tapped out on the SEC dominance.
I will say this from a culture standpoint. I think the SEC schools fan bases and living in the South kind of just demand that in a way because I don't think that there's anywhere in the country that eat, lives, and sleeps and breathes college football more than the teams that are in the South.
So I tend to agree with you based on just
We
experience.
don't have anything else. We don't have any. I mean, you have some of the southern state like Atlanta's got a NFL team, with like states like and well, I mean Florida's got one, but it's just not as relevant here as it is in some of
Sure.
the more northern states.
Sure.
And I don't, and I mean, I guess that's just what it is.
When I covered the SEC for 7 years in Mississippi, the people that I interacted with were not NFL fans. And if they were casual NFL fans. And even if they were ardent NFL fans, who did they root for? They had to go all the way to New Orleans, that was 400 miles away or whatever from Mississippi. And I'm talking northern Mississippi, and then all the way to Atlanta. Like the Braves, I encountered and hung out with a lot of baseball fans in Mississippi, and they were Braves fans. And it struck me kind of funny because here I'm coming from Ohio, and Cleveland's 25 minutes away, and that's my team. And then I go hang out with people that have to go like 3 states away to root for a Major League Baseball team. And so, yeah, to your point, even the states in the South that have NFL franchises, though those NFL franchises are newer franchises. So throughout the 50s and 60s and 70s, they didn't have NFL teams. Now, the Dolphins just showed up near 1970, I believe 68, and the Falcons right at that same time, 1968. The Saints, 1966, I believe, was their first year. So the tradition, the generations all grew up just with college sports, and we still have states, Alabama, Mississippi, Kentucky, that have no NFL teams, whereas for as popular as Big Ten football is, and that would be the second most popular, I think we're pretty safe to say, every state has multiple NFL teams. Pennsylvania, Ohio, Indiana, Illinois, there are NFL teams all over the place.
Yeah, and when people move here to the state of Alabama from other states, maybe let's say from the northern states, one of the first things they're told is you got to pick between Alabama and Auburn. That's one of the first things that gets said to them. I have a neighbor that moved here from Connecticut, and that's one of the first things that we said. Now we said, hey, now people gonna ask you who you gonna root for, Alabama or Auburn, and so it's that kind of thing. And I've grown up with it. I mean, ever since I was actually, when the first outfit that they put me in when I was born was an Alabama onesie that my grandmother did for me. So literally out of the womb, I guess you can say I'm an Alabama fan. So, and that happens. That's very common, for that kind of tradition to happen. And so, I don't necessarily. My opinion on my original question is, I think that it's just more of a frustration thing. I just tend to think that you have to respect greatness whenever it happens, and you got to see it for what it is. I mean, I'm trying to think of something else to compare it to modern day. Well, it's just like the whole thing with the Warriors went on a few run there where they won several championships and was in the NBA championships for a few years in a row there. You just had to respect that team was able to be that consistent year over year. And so, so that's the only thing that I can think of in recent history to compare it to.
I can't imagine, Hunter, that anybody that's a reasonable person doesn't respect Alabama. I don't think there's a respect issue there. I can't imagine. Anybody that doesn't respect what Nick Saban's accomplished in Alabama football has accomplished is they're just an unreasonable person. You can hate it. You can be frustrated. Absolutely. And I think the fans that I think tend to be more frustrated are the fans that are right near the top. So if you're a Purdue fan, I don't think you get frustrated as much by Alabama winning national championships because that's not your thing. That your team doesn't have a chance. You don't go into each season thinking about that. But if you're an Ohio State fan, then you get frustrated with it because being number 2 doesn't move the needle. It's not a goal. It's that's even more frustrating.
You're right. You're right. And I think from and I've been asked this question before, and I think this is the answer that I was given to this question. I've been asked before, what do you think that makes Nick Saban so successful year over year? And um, one of the things that I've heard from people who are close to the program is when Nick Saban first got there to Alabama, his recruiting pitch has always been, "We would love to have you here, but we're going to win without you." And his pitch has always been, "And if you're a competitor, this is where you want to be at. If you want to compete, this is where you want to go." And I think his system of the way that he demands his players to buy into the things that he is, his system, they call it the process, I think that's what's made him more successful, year over year. And it doesn't hurt having a bunch of NFL players get drafted from your program year in and year out since he's been there.
Well, see, I would be more interested in seeing Nick Saban as a recruiter in action, let's say at the beginning of his LSU tenure, before he had accomplished anything, because then you get to see into, okay, what made him such a great recruiter? Now he's still using those same skills, but half the battle's won when he walks in the door because he just flashes championship rings and everyone's in awe of him. So he's not needing to sell anyone or convince anyone anymore. So it's not so much that he has to be a great recruiter now. The place and his legacy recruits. But he had to be one at one point.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. Well, Mark, like I said, congratulations on your subscribership, and I'm glad that I found your program at your YouTube channel, and it's been good to keep me, throughout the year engaged. And I know there's probably a bunch of people on the channel that feel the same way. So we just appreciate you and what you do for college football.
I'm glad that you found our channel as well, Hunter. And have a good night. We always appreciate your call.
All right, bye-bye.
All right, let's get to some super chats before we take this next call here. We got our guy Lemansky here. Lemansky, thank you so much for that. If you go on Twitter and go to my page on Twitter, MarkRogersTV, you will see the subscriber count. It's all added up there for you. If you want to get the abacus out or the calculator, then you can add them all up. Lemansky, congrats, Mark. You and the 100,000K candy bar are winning, and so good. Now, unlike the Iowa channel, go right ahead and talk playoffs. Smile Buckeye faithful. Lemansky in the Hawkeye yellow, gold. It would be gold, yes. Looks like yellow, gold, black and gold of the Iowa Hawkeyes. Thank you, Lemansky. Appreciate that. All right, let me make sure that we get these other super chats honored. Thank you so much for them. Neil, thank you so much for your contribution. Appreciate that so much, sir. For Mark, Tim challenged us, so here I am. Neil, the only thing I regret right now is that I don't have the Wolfpack helmet displayed behind me. It's, I could bring out the trash bag that has all the helmets in it. I could do that right now and set up a temporary display here. But Neil, thank you so much for the contribution. It is so much appreciated. And thanks for your support. And then we also have, I believe, another one coming in from Tim. My guy, Tim. My goodness. This guy, and I don't want to leave anybody out in this. So anybody that's active in our Discord, please, if I don't say your name, I appreciate that you're there and that you're contributing. But we got Tim, we got One Scoop John, Eric, Exploring with Ben and Sam, Ronan's in there all the time, Joey Foster's in there all the time, Jordan Bowman, and some others. And again, if I missed you, we got about 60 on Patreon that also get the Discord link. And Tim's done a phenomenal job of rounding up the troops. And again, everybody else that I mentioned doing the same thing to say, hey, come on in and join Discord. You go to Patreon, search Mark Rogers TV, you sign up for Discord, we get you a big welcome. I give you the big hug, the proverbial welcome aboard with a big hug email, and we get you the Discord link, and you can talk college football with these knuckleheads all the time. They don't get enough. Sometimes I am just toast after these shows because you got to realize that I'm also doing them all day, even when they're not live. I'm recording all day. Today I recorded Tennessee, Clemson, Alabama, somebody else that I'm not remembering, Kentucky. And so some nights, man, I am just toast after these, and trying to do a lot of other things behind the scenes to get us going and continue to build here, i.e. sponsors. And we've got a connection with a merchandising guy that I really need to get back to him because I don't know why he's not delivered anything yet. So Tim, thank you so much for the contribution. Congratulations, Mark, on the validation of this milestone on the way to 1 million. Let's take that and run with it. And let's see. I think there might be another one coming up. Thank you so much for that. Oh, man. Bilal's here. Congrats, Mark. 250,000 K is next. We'll be here for you. Thank you so much, Bilal. And I like that everyone's looking forward. That's awesome. Looking forward. Someday I'm going to post, and only a few of you are going to appreciate this and care about it because most of you just want college football content. So I appreciate that. You don't need to hear about where we've been and what we're doing with the channel. But for those of you that care, anytime I run across a struggling YouTuber who's like, Mark, or I'm in the YouTube Think Media chat on Facebook, and I'm not really in there, but don't participate. But I see new YouTubers who are just so perplexed that they've only got 87 subscribers and they've been doing this for 3 weeks, and I've produced 12 videos, and I'm like, you know how many videos I produced? I lost track at 12,000. I don't know, 16,000, 17,000 videos. And they're like, what? And they don't even believe me most of the time. There's no way you've done 16,000 videos. Yeah, I have done like 16,000 videos. And I'm like, do you know how many subscribers I had after a year? Like 6. After 2 years, like 17. After 3 years, like 100. So I just tell them, grind. Put your nose down, grind. Appreciate that, Bilal. And then we've got Roger. Congrats, Mark. Nice milestone. Thank you so much for that, Roger. That's very nice of you. Thank you so much for the contribution. Appreciate that so much. And yeah, we will be setting up our set here hopefully soon. So stay with us here. Maybe this stands out. Maybe we just do that. Maybe I should just paint this wall a different color. I saw somebody, a YouTuber, who I thought had a very effective set. Now, they weren't a sports person, but it was more like some kind of like tech channel or something. But I thought it was just pristine, and it was so just sharp that they just had like this really beautiful, I think it was like a white table with like a black, couldn't have been black. Anyway, they must have had a state-of-the-art camera, and the lighting was perfect, but they had nothing. They had just a nice white table, and it just looked sharp. Now, I know most of you want me to have hats and Sports Illustrated covers and football helmets and jerseys and stuff laying all over the place behind me, but I thought that was sharp. All right, I think we have caught everyone here, so let's take on the next call. We got Chris on the line. Chris, how you doing?
Good. You forgot to tell everybody that you did a West Virginia podcast. That was the other one you did. Am I wrong?
Well, yeah, West Virginia and Oklahoma today. But I was trying to think of the recordings that I did today that nobody has seen yet. Is what I was trying to remember.
Uh-huh. And I don't want to waste your time, Mark. I know if you decide you have other people you want to just let me know and I'll cut me off. It won't upset me at all because I think I've already called you once today. But
Before you continue, can I tell you one thing?
Sure.
Can you do me a favor?
Sure.
Please don't come on here and make any references to wasting my time or not being worth it or anything like that. Chris, we love having you here. You're a great caller. You provide some tremendous analysis and perspective on historical results and all of that. I enjoy your phone calls, and you are worth the time.
Well, I appreciate that. I don't know whether I deserve I don't know whether I really meet that level of, but I appreciate the fact you would even mention that. I really do. I was just going to say something, and it's not meant to diminish any program. It's really not. I don't like doing that, no matter who it is. Even if I think nobody really necessarily. I think we all can agree that Alabama, they've set the bar pretty high. But so and I think maybe when any program does that, it's just natural human response, I guess, to maybe kind of want to see them tumble down the hill or whatever. It's not necessarily what I want to see, but I think for people that aren't at the top, it's kind of maybe a position. It's like you envy it, but. I think it took Alabama probably, I actually don't know much about their history, if you want to know the truth, Mark. I know a little bit about how they've done as a program, but, their history is, I'm not really associated with any of it. And I have to actually, to learn about it, I have to actually do a lot of homework. And even then, I don't know that I know a tremendous amount. So even though you might, want to give me credit for getting the right numbers or whatever, if I do, that's more about them than me if I get it right, which, I try to get it right, but just because I try to get it right doesn't necessarily mean that I do. But the interesting thing, if you want to make it into a point of discussion, it's that actually, at least by the numbers that I was able to get, Alabama actually isn't first. But, I don't know why, though. I don't know what that's based on. I don't know if it's just, and then, like I said, I don't know how far back the data actually goes. But according to the data that I was able to get and use, and it surprised me, to be honest with you. I didn't really expect it to be Ohio State, but apparently the best program of all time is Ohio State. Now that's based on data that I was able to get from mcube.net. And so, like I said, even if I got it right, it's really not about me. I hope I did get it right, but.
Can I ask one quick question, Chris, before you continue? Is
Sure.
That number, not just Ohio State's, but obviously everyone's number, is that generally based on some combination of winning percentage against strength of schedule?
I have to be kind of careful how I tell you this because, like I say, I don't want to get anybody mad at me because they're going to look at it, and I think one guy already kind of did. Adam, he saw where Miami was. I don't think he particularly liked it, but it's not really me putting Miami anywhere. I take the numbers, run them through not even a computer, my pocket calculator. And it gives me a number, and I just put the number on and it's not even really what I think at all. So it's like if people want to complain about it, I'm not really the person to complain to. But it's basically, I think the bottom line might be it's just basically, from what I can tell, the best I can tell, it's a winning percentage is all it really is. But it's based on the assumption that if you play against a P5. That has a higher value, I guess, relative to, and it's not because of me. It's not like, oh, well, I'm going to make sure it's, that's really not what it does. It's just that the way the formula that I use gives a higher value to any P5 opponent and a lesser value to any G5 opponent. And then I just kind of add the two together and it gives me a composite rating. And yeah, it's basically, even though it's just a number, it should be roughly the same as a winning percentage, as if everybody played the same, level of, but again, I want to be real careful about that though, because I know not all P5 wins are equal. So I might not be really taking everything into account. So, it's possible maybe, and I'm not saying this is necessarily the case, but it's possible that maybe the P5 opponents that Team A played weren't quite as good as the P5 opponents that so it's based on just basically whether they're a P5 team or not. And I just take the composite and basically, because it's over such a long stretch of time, I kind of figured some of that might even itself out anyway. So, but like I said, I wasn't expecting Ohio State to be first. It actually kind of surprised me, and I didn't make sure that they finished first or anything, because that's not how I do my business. But based on the formula that I use, I mean, they finished first. I mean, I don't know what else to say about it other than that. And that's just how it turned out. And that's based on, I don't know how many years of history, at least 100 years, maybe even longer. I'm not really sure, because I just take the data from mcube.net, and they really don't put a time frame around any of it. They just kind of give composite numbers, and they're real easy to use. And I know the formula to use, and it's just, you just plug them in the, it tells me what the result is. I don't tell it, and that's what I got.
So let me ask you this, and I'm going to write down this site. What's the name of the site again?
Well, it's kind of interesting because, like, without this site, I really wouldn't have been able to do any of this. I mean, I don't know if that's just a coincidence or not, but mcube.net, mcubed.net, and I don't know why it even exists. But if I didn't have that as a resource, there's no way I could have done any of this. So it's like, if I'm doing it correctly, and I really do hope that I am, really the credit probably should belong to them, not me, because I'm just taking their data and I'm using a formula that I know a little bit about, but the data is really all that really matters. And I got the data from mcube.net, and it's actually a pretty decent, reliable source of information. I'm actually surprised how reliable it actually is.
Does it allow someone to put in a time range? So if you want to calculate the 21st century.
I think it does, but because personally, I don't really tend to do that myself. I mean, I think there's a way to do that, but I didn't really think that's what really mattered. I just went and I'll be honest, I don't know for sure, but it gave the data in such a concise way that it was almost like they were like working with me or something, because it's like, well, here's the data you need. But I was able to take their data and make really all I'm really doing, to be completely fair, is I'm just making an inference. I'm not saying, oh, this is the last, this says that Team X is better than Team Y. I'm not doing that at all. I mean, it just says that compared to each other, it's, there's if Team X is higher rated than Team Y or whatever, there's a pretty good chance that Team X is better than Team Y, but it doesn't necessarily mean that they are. But yeah, I mean, it should give the right value, though. It should give, and Texas finished third, which I thought was kind of interesting. I didn't expect that either. Texas actually finished third behind Alabama and Ohio State. I didn't expect that. I didn't really think that would happen, and then Nebraska was fourth, and I think, not sure who was fifth. It might have been Oklahoma. Top five were kind of what you might think might be, but it wasn't exactly what I thought they'd be.
So and who was upset? Where did Miami place?
Well, they were 13th, but there was a guy that he didn't really complain. He just said that, well, he's a decent. It's something about me. It's like, well, he's a decent guy. We don't have to agree with what he puts out there, but it's like, well, really, this isn't about me anyway. I mean, you can disagree with what I put out there, but it's not my data, so I don't know what exactly what the problem is. But yeah, they were 13th.
That's actually pretty high. I would have guessed lower.
Well, if you're a Miami fan, you want to see him number one, and that's the problem I've been having all along. Is I'll put data out there, and then they want to see their team no matter who they are. I imagine if you could look hard enough, you might find a New Mexico State fan that thinks they should be number one, but they're not probably going to be there. I mean, I'm being a little facetious, but
sure. Well, considering Miami was lousy before 1980 and has been marginal since 2005, they really had a run of 25 years.
Mm-hmm.
That was exceptional.
Oh, sure.
And that's it.
Well, I guess as a program, though, they must finish a little bit better than maybe even what you might think they would. I mean, I'm not the one putting them at number 13. That's not me doing that. That's what people always mistake about me and what I do. Oh, why'd you put Miami at? I'm like, well, I guess you can blame me if you want to, but it's really not about me.
I understand that.
Okay. And I'm not trying to give advantage to anybody that I can think of. If I fudge the data, which I don't, by the way, but if I do, it wouldn't be to give like a team a better, look better than they really are, because I don't think that's fair to anybody to do that, really. Oh, I'll give Michigan a couple extra points because I think they're a little bit better than seventh or whatever it was they were. It's like, I don't really see how that helps anybody, but it's always possible too that I'm not taking everything into account. So these data that I put out, no matter where it is, I've actually found out before that there's times I've gotten it wrong. So, people just gotta, if I get it wrong, they just have to take it with a grain of salt, because I'm a human being, it's taken me a long time, first of all, to even get to this point where I can actually do it. But the formula itself is actually relatively simple. It might surprise you how simple it actually is. It's not a real long, hard, complicated formula. It's really pretty simple. Simpler than I thought it would be, actually, to do it. It's actually very simple. It's like something a person could do like on their, on their phone. their phone calculator. I mean, it's that simple. But yeah, it should give the right result. And the fact Ohio State's first, I don't know what really to tell you about it other than the fact they must be a lot better than I expected. Okay. I didn't expect Ohio State to be first. I'm just being honest with you. I didn't expect them to finish first.
What did you expect? Like 19?
I don't know. I just always heard that Notre Dame and Michigan and, the ones I've always heard the most about growing up as a kid were like Oklahoma. Not so much Nebraska, really, even though I know they were always pretty good. I mean, I guess Texas, but not as much, really. And I didn't really expect Alabama to be that high, to be honest with you. I thought it would be somebody, that, you kind of know is going to be good no matter what year you're talking about. And I think Alabama's had a few ups and downs, haven't they?
Well, Michigan and Notre Dame certainly got off to a great start. The first 25, 30 years of college football, they would be way out in front of not everyone, not including, Yale, Princeton, etc.,
No.
Army, but out of the teams that are now currently the elite.
Yeah. Well, that's the other thing. I'm not even including any of those other. That's why I'm not for sure how far back this data actually goes, because it doesn't include even any one of those teams that you just talked, except for Army. It does, but not like Yale or Princeton some of those are the best teams to ever play. So I guess what I'm posting isn't really a complete list, but it's complete as far as what we have now. It has everybody that we have now in the FBS, so it's relatively
good stuff. Well, thanks, Chris. I appreciate you stopping by.
And congratulations, Mark. And like I say, if I ever get under your skin, it's like just try not to let it get to you, because I tend to get under people's skin a lot. It's not something.
Not a problem, Chris. I always appreciate your phone call. I know we've gone at it a few times, but I just consider that to be healthy debate. And
I'm more than just a little impressed with how you are as a person. I mean, that might sound like I'm pandering to you, but when I've thought you've been wrong, you've actually been right a lot. So I'm just going to throw that out there for whatever it's worth.
I appreciate that, Chris. And again, I have always stated that there is such a thing as truth and there is such a thing as facts, but most of what we deal with, they're just different perspectives. And,
sure.
And just because I have a perspective doesn't mean it's the only one that's valid.
Well, I've found it to be right more often than I expected. I'll just put it that way. More often than I actually expected, yeah. Kind of like with Ohio State being first. I didn't expect that, but that's where they are. So.
Well, thank you, sir. I appreciate the call. I always do.
Thank you, Mark.
You have a great night.
You too.
All right, let's keep it going. We do have One Scoop John here. One Scoop John, one of our mainstays there at Discord. We would do phenomenal to have a huge surge to Discord tonight. That would be phenomenal. So you go to Patreon, search MarkRogersTV. You sign up right there. You're on Discord. I get you the link. I send you a nice little welcome letter. Discord. You get my picks, which I can never guarantee are going to make you money. It's not necessarily for that. But you get my picks, you get everybody else's picks, meaning guys like Jason Ray and Jason Priester and Tony Gerdeman and Kevin Noon and Steve Hellwagon and Steve Dace and all those guys with their predictions. But what has become the crown jewel of the Patreon membership, Discord, that's what it is. And you can talk college football with all of us 24/7, 365. The chats are running all the time. There's a specific chat for all 5 major conferences. And if it really gets revved up, we will, if there is a need, if there is a reason to just have a USC chat room or just a Ohio State Notre Dame week 1 chat room, you can make as many chats on this thing as possible. A recruiting chat, whatever it is, we will continue to build it out. So One Scoop John, appreciate it. Mark, congrats on 100,000 subscribers. See some of you later in our post-show hangout. Go Blue. Did Go Blue actually come out of my mouth? I just read it. That didn't come from the heart. All of it came from the heart except for the end of that. All right. Let me pick off. I think we had another super chat here. I believe. And then we'll get to our next call, which I believe we've got our Purdue guy, Michael, on the line. Hang on just a second. The top of the screen is showing me that I'm missing a super chat, but I don't know where to find it. Maybe not. Okay, next up here at the Voice of College Football, who's on the line?
Hey, Marcus, Michael, congrats on the 100K, sir.
It was Michael. I thought it was. Thank you so much for that. I appreciate it. How you doing tonight?
Not too bad, and just relaxing on a Friday night. And yourself?
Nice. I am doing well and feeling good. I love this time of year because I'm a warm weather guy.
41 days to go for me.
Yeah, that's going to be a heck of a football night. I am looking forward to Penn State Purdue as much as any other game in week 1.
You know, I was just in another stream the other day that I was thinking about. They was talking about it. And what was it when Nick Saban was in Michigan State? He had some decent teams, but not me. I mean, not like Alabama and stuff like that. Didn't LSU. What was it that made him not have the success at Michigan State, even though they was predominantly had some good teams in Big Ten championships back in the 80s and stuff like that? And then he goes down to LSU, wins the national championship, leaves to go to the Dolphins, comes back to Alabama. What happened somewhere in that road somewhere that all of a sudden he's having success where he couldn't get into Michigan State?
Well, I'm going to make a couple guesses here, a couple educated guesses. One would be, I think we need to understand that there is certainly a lot of correlation between Nick Saban and Bill Belichick. And if you look at Bill Belichick's first NFL job as a head coach, that was with the Cleveland Browns, and he had a spotty performance. He had a couple decent teams. He had some misgivings in Cleveland. I think he has stated this as well, and I think Nick Saban would say the same thing, that they learned a lot from their first job to their next job. So Nick Saban's first head coaching job was not Michigan State, but that was his first major job. And I think he learned a lot in terms of running a program in a big conference that he took that to LSU. Plus, you can just recruit better athletes at LSU than you can at Michigan State. And those would be the first two things. I think Nick Saban was a tremendous coach at Michigan State. And if you really look at the run he had, he was there 4 seasons. I'd have to look this up.
I think so.
But his last season in 1999, they went 10-2 and won the Citrus Bowl and finished in the top 10 in the nation. He might have been right on the cusp of doing something really big at Michigan State.
Yeah, but I'm trying to remember, where was he at before Michigan State?
Who was there before?
No, where was Nick Saban at before Michigan State?
Wasn't he the head coach at Toledo?
Was it? I'm not sure.
I better double check that. I don't want to be wrong, but I haven't thought about that forever. Why is that in my head that he was at Toledo? Nick Saban. Let me double check his coaching record. Yeah, I think he was at Toledo after he left the Cleveland Browns. So he and Belichick were with the Cleveland Browns. For anybody who loves football, even if you're not an NFL fan, that loves to see coaches and how they work, there is a tremendous documentary on the NFL Network where they show the 1995 Cleveland Browns with Bill Belichick, Nick Saban, Kirk Ferentz, Jim Caldwell. Who else is on that? Not Jim Caldwell. Schwartz, the Detroit Lions coach.
Oh, yeah.
There's a couple other guys on that staff that turned out to be great coaches, and they were all on the same staff together. NFL Network just has all this insider footage of their meeting rooms and their practices. It's phenomenal. It's great.
Yeah. I wasn't sure and stuff like that. So I do got to ask you this. So I know you've been – oh, go ahead, Mark. Sorry.
Season. Yes, he was at Toledo in 1990. So he actually went – I don't know what job he would have had before Toledo in 1990. That was his first head coaching position. He went 9-2 at Toledo in 1990. Then he went to the Cleveland Browns. Then he got the Michigan State job.
Yep, I was just wondering stuff like that. I couldn't remember where he was at before Michigan State and in between with the Browns and stuff like that. But I got to ask you, when are you going to start doing more of your predictions?
Oh, yeah, we got to get on the predictions.
Oh, not necessarily predict, because you've been doing some and then you took a break from them and stuff.
You mean like previews?
Yeah.
Yeah, I need to get some previews out. You're right about that.
But go ahead, sorry.
You know what's really hurt me is that I'm in the process of a move, and I should have never packed away my Phil Steele and my Athlons and all my resources. Not that I can't find what I need on the internet, but I really love memorizing, just devouring those. And they've been packed away, and they're still in a moving van somewhere. But anyway, yeah, I got to get on these previews. What we're going to do, Michael, and you know what I should do, especially for you. This is what we're going to attempt to do, especially for you. Do you know of any Purdue media people that you especially like?
Yes, I know several of them.
Okay.
And I will direct message you those on Twitter.
Do that, because what we're doing is we're going to do as many fall camp preview live streams as I can possibly jam together. And we already have Notre Dame, Clemson, and Texas A&M organized. And we're going to get to those starting next week. And right around the first day of camp, we're going to deliver as many fall camp previews as possible.
Not bad. I do got to ask you this, though. I know you know Dave Revs and stuff like that. We were talking about it. But I didn't know if you've actually got in touch with anybody from the Big Ten Network, or because there's another person I know who works for the Pac-12 Network. She's like a studio host, Ashley Adamson. But I'm not sure if you're in Pac-12 either or not, though. But Ashley, she's a great person to follow and stuff like that too. But the thing I'm trying to figure out is this, though, Mark. I did hear back from Dennis, by the way. Thank you for doing that.
Sure.
But hopefully and stuff like that, I'm going to try to crank out some articles after Big Ten Media Days and stuff like that next week. But I was just wondering stuff like that. Didn't know how you was going to try to go about it. Are you going to try to pick a specific game each week from each conference that looks as a trendy, or are you just going by team from each conference?
In terms of doing what?
Like the fall camps and stuff like that.
No, I'm just going to do as many as possible.
All right. I was just wondering.
I had a poll. I took a poll of who wanted, out of all the teams that don't have a live stream that we do every week, and Notre Dame won the poll. So we're definitely doing a Notre Dame one, but we're also going to do Clemson and Texas A&M so far, and I'm going to deliver some other ones as well. But if you give me some names, I'll try to pull together a Purdue hour-long live stream.
All right, not bad and stuff like that. No, I was just wondering stuff like that, and I cannot wait until this. Mark, is there any chance we can fast forward through the rest of the month, through August, and get to the end of August?
Weather-wise, I would not want to do that, but yes, to see football, yeah, I would love to do that.
Oh, one other thing I was just thinking about. You said Phil Steele and Athlon is in not painting in itself. What makes you? I mean, I know. Have you even had Phil Steele on your show yet?
This summer?
No. Or in the past?
In the past, yeah. I've had him on about 3 times. And actually, I contacted him a few weeks ago, and he said he was going to come on. And then I lost track, and I need to get back to get that set up.
Yeah.
That's a reminder.
Are you like on the thing of me, the thing like Phil Steele's the best of the premium magazine? Or do you like Phil Steele for one thing, Athlon for another, and then like Street and Smith or something like that, or Lindy's? Because to me, Phil Steele is the best of the best, I think.
Yeah, I just flat out. I have great respect for the other publications. I think they're really good. But he packs. So basically what you're going to get with like an Athlon is you're going to get a nice review on everybody. So to Illinois, you're going to get you're going to get familiar with the quarterback battle and the 3 offensive linemen that are coming back, and they're going to name a couple receivers, and then they go into the defense, and you get you get a nice snapshot of every team. But if you want to know about every player on the team, like everybody, if you want the 4 deep at quarterback and you want the 6 deep at running back, you want to know where they were recruited, and you want to know what their stats were last year, and you just can't beat
Phil's.
And he did it anyway. The only way that he could do it without the thing being, like 5 feet thick is code. So you got to read it in code. But it's just packed with information.
Yeah, it is. I was wondering, and like I said, as Chris said, thanks for taking my time. Again, congrats on the 100K. Can't wait for the 200 and stuff like that. But I'm sure you got other people on the line waiting for you. Mark, this is one of the excruciating things I hate is moving because I'm in the process of doing it myself. But anyway, have fun, enjoy the weekend, and I will enjoy the rest of the stream.
Thanks, Michael.
Take care. Have a good weekend.
You as well.
Okay, bye-bye.
It's our guy Michael checking in. Loves Purdue, loves the Big Ten, loves college football. Can't wait to get it going. All right, let's get to George.
You on your show yet?
George here.
This summer?
Or in the past?
In the past, yeah, I've had him on about
George.
3 times.
Hello.
And actually, I contacted him
George,
a
get
few
on
weeks
here.
ago,
I
and he
don't
said
want
he
to
was
kick you
going to
off,
come
but
on, and then
you're not
I
here
lost
with us.
track, and I
You know
need
what?
to get back.
Let's put George in the background, and we'll move it on. We got to real MVP here.
Hey, Mark, how you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm doing great. And congrats on hitting 100,000 subscribers across all your team channels. Hopefully, in the future, you'll be able to celebrate 100,000 subscribers on just this main channel.
Absolutely.
So the thing I would like to talk to you about today is the SEC media poll. I'm not sure. Have you seen it yet?
No.
Well, it will not shock you, but the Alabama Crimson Tide came in first and Georgia came in second. I know this is a shock to everybody in the nation that they were the clear favorites. Texas A&M finished second in the West, then Arkansas, Ole Miss, LSU, Mississippi State, Auburn.
Okay.
You have any problems with those?
No.
Okay. In the East, it was Georgia, Kentucky, Tennessee, Florida, South Carolina, Missouri, and Vandy. And Kentucky, Tennessee, very close voting. Very close. Vanderbilt somehow got a first place vote, so shout out to Vandy. Any problems?
Okay, so here's the deal. There were a lot of things stated throughout the week on the SEC Network's coverage of media days that I disagreed with. I was making all sorts of lists, even though I think it's a first-rate production and they do an outstanding job. And Greg McElroy in particular is a guy that I can listen to talk about football all day. And he said it a number of times that you got Bama and Georgia, 1 and 2, 2 and 1, whatever it is, and then Vandy's at the bottom. But 3 through 13, we can have an argument about that for the next 5 days. I will say that after listening to McElroy talk about Auburn and listening to, and I didn't want to get swayed by any particular head coach, but because of course at media days, they're the greatest and they're coming together and everything's going to be fabulous. But I'm kind of considering whether Auburn's going to shock a few people.
If they win a single SEC game, they would shock me.
What?
Yeah, I honestly think they could go winless in the SEC.
Oh my goodness. Well, certainly everybody they play is capable of beating them. There are no gimmies.
The only one that I would say they would be favored in is Missouri. But outside of that, there isn't a single SEC opponent I think they would be favored in. They're not being favored over Mississippi State on the road. Oh, I doubt Ole Miss. And I don't think their cross rival at Georgia's. I think they're going to die. They're going to lose by 35 plus in that game. And if they look bad, like against Penn State, it's a 14-21 point blowout. It's possible they're underdogs.
Our show last night, which I eventually titled Pat Narduzzi Says Pitt Would Win the Big Ten, what I was going to go with before. But once he said that, I thought, okay, that's got to be the headliner. I got to run with that. But what I was going to go with before that was in watching ACC and SEC media days, I started to think about who am I rooting for this year? Now, of course, I'm rooting for Ohio State, but I mean, like, are there particular players, coaches, and teams in particular that I'm kind of pulling for? And two that I came up with in the SEC, are Vandy, because I love this statement that Clark Lee made about we're going to be the best program in the country. I love that.
Somebody took it literally and voted them #1, so they convinced somebody out there.
I should come out with a preseason poll and put them #1. Hey, they're 0-0, just like everybody else.
Exactly.
But, maybe that'll be my top 25 that actually makes sense before the season starts. Vandy, I hope they win their first game. Maybe they'll be in my top 25 after week 1 or week 0 for them. They go to Hawaii.
Yeah.
So I'm rooting for them, and I'm rooting for Brian Harsin. I am rooting for Auburn.
Well, you root for those teams, you're going to take a lot of L's, and I mean a lot of L's.
And I continue to root for Wake Forest. I love Wake Forest, Northwestern. Those are the schools that always come to mind that I'm pulling for.
Why is 3 out of the 4 teams you root for not going to do anything? I mean, Wake Forest could be 6-6, 7-5, 8-4, but the other teams, oh Lord,
I just admire. Well, forget Auburn. Auburn's different. They've, in the past had great teams, great players. They can recruit and have money and all that. But the other ones, I feel bad for them. And
it's a pity, bro.
I just want to see them succeed. And
what would it take for Brian Harsin to get his job next year?
Brian Harsin's not going to have a job?
What would it take for him to keep it? I mean, everybody's already said he's fired, basically.
I hope he keeps his job if they go 6-6.
Just 6-6?
I'd keep him around for another year at 6-6.
Okay, because I mean, he was basically attempted to be fired midway through the offseason.
If you go through what they did at Auburn last season, and there's no excuse for what the record is. The record is what the record is. Yes, I agree with that cliche. But just take into consideration what they faced, that they lost Bo Nix. They were 6-2 or 6-3 when they lost Bo Nix. And they were so close to having a really good season.
Yeah, but so close don't count, Mark.
But nobody manhandled them. They didn't get whipped by anybody.
Well, I mean, Georgia kind of.
Well, Georgia did. Georgia did. Yeah. But Georgia did that to everybody except Alabama.
Fair enough. But I don't see the energy. I don't see the excitement, and I don't see the staff. Didn't Derek Mason leave Auburn to go to Oklahoma State?
Yeah, for less money.
Yeah, that's at best that's a lateral move.
Yeah, it's not.
Yeah, it says panic. I see panic written above Auburn.
That was the personnel move that made me stop and think, okay, there's something wrong here. Because the reports I saw was that Derek Mason was making over $1 million, and he took like a $300,000 pay cut to go to, no offense, Oklahoma State fans, and I know you got a better team right this second, but Oklahoma State is not on Auburn. They've not played for national championships. They're not Auburn. Right. It's fairly close, but they're not Auburn. And so that's when I was like, you're going to leave an SEC school and go to Oklahoma State and take a 30% pay cut. You must really not like this coach.
Yeah, they're in a tough spot right now. And with the idea of tough spots in mind, who's the first coach that gets fired?
This is a good one. The first coach that gets fired is, who's on the hot seat? Besides Harsin, Norvell's on the hot seat. Who else is on the hot seat?
I would go with Dino Babers, the Syracuse head coach.
Dino Babers, yeah, he's on the hot seat. Chip Kelly could be. I'm going to say that's a good topic for a video right there. I did a hot seat video, but to actually predict who's going to get fired, because the numbers tell us that about 8 or 9 coaches get fired every season. That's about the number. So if I can pinpoint what 8 or 9 coaches are going to get fired,
Which conference do you think would have the most?
Well, the ACC has the most new coaches, so that would tell us that they would not have coaches get fired. I think Jeff Collins may get fired at Georgia Tech. The SEC, I don't think anyone's besides Harsin, nobody else is in trouble because they're either locked in or they're new. You know, the Big 12, most of the bad teams replace their coaches. Yeah, who else is going to get fired? It's a great, maybe Tom Allen at Indiana, if they have another awful season, maybe he gets fired.
David Shaw?
David Shaw's not going to get fired. I don't see him getting fired. I understand where you're going with that because they've been bad for 3 years now. Scott Satterfield, if Louisville doesn't have a good season, I think he could get fired.
Oh, how about Scott Frost?
And Scott Frost, if they don't go 7-5 or at least reach a bowl game, he should get fired.
Could he get fired if they lose to Oklahoma and are not even competitive?
Oh, if it looks like they're coming off the rails and they lose by 5 touchdowns, I don't think, no, he's not going to get fired for that. No, they'll let him finish out the season. And if he goes 5-7, I got to think he's gone. Maybe 6-6. Their schedule's quite a bit lighter than it was last year. No Ohio State, no Michigan State.
Well, Mark, I think that's all I got for you today. Congrats on passing 100,000 subscribers across all your team channels. And I'm looking forward to you posting this Kentucky conversation. Hear about the third best team in the SEC.
Okay. I'm looking forward to it as well. All right, man. We'll see you.
See you later.
All right, our man to real MVP. And we're going to try George again. George has been hanging out, but I don't think he's with us. George, hello.
Hey, Mark.
Oh, there you are.
There's no echo, right?
We cannot hear you.
You can't hear me?
No, it's like
You should be able to hear me.
now we can hear you.
Really?
Yes, we couldn't hear you before.
I don't even know what I did to fix it. Oh, wait a minute. My phone's it's on 5% battery. I got to plug it back in. Can you still hear me?
George is the only one who can come to the show unprepared. We allow that for George, but nobody else.
Hey, I'm old. You can tell. I mean, you want me to turn on some lights or what?
No, you're good.
All right.
You are
Cool.
looking good, sounding good, crystal clear.
I work. My kid called me yesterday and asked me to go to work with him.
And did you go to work with him?
Well, I had a broken leg. Remember I told you?
Yeah, I do. So how's that looking right now?
Well, it's like 6 weeks later, and I went and I did it. I made it. I'm back home.
So that was 6 weeks ago. Okay. So how much
Yeah.
of the leg mobility do you have back? Strength and all that?
I'm 100%, but it still hurts.
Yeah. Still hurts.
I've always been 100%, Mark. You know why? Because I'm an old man, and I know there's a thing called range of motion, and when shit atrophy, if a muscle atrophies, So I have kept using the leg every day it was broken, refusing to lose 1 inch of range of motion. I'm not going to limp when I'm done. I'm going to walk normal, you know? Because if you just sit back and let it heal, when you get up, it's going to be like, ugh, it won't work. But every day I just pressed on, and no matter how much it hurt, you know?
Mm. Okay. Well, I hate that it still hurts.
Yeah,
It didn't hurt.
it's all relative. I could be digging through a garbage dump in the Philippines for daily sustenance. I mean, it's a first world problem, you know. My leg hurts.
Yeah, that's
Bad,
true.
so sad.
That's a good way to look at it. I say that from time to time myself. It's a first world problem.
I think the greatest thing out of all of this is that excuse me. Oh my God. Oh my God, it's a dry cough. I hope I'm okay.
Yeah.
Anyhow.
You right there. There you go.
Yeah. Yeah. It's okay. Anyhow, I think if everybody would just use your Amazon link, because everybody uses Amazon. So if you have 100,000 subscribers, if 10,000 of them, 5,000 of them, even out of 100,000, if 5% would just use your Amazon portal, they don't understand. If everybody would use it, you would be Amazon's biggest Amazon link producing channel. You would get an award from Amazon, you know? But I don't think they're going to do it. I don't think people are on board. I'm not really feeling it. Are you? Are people jumping on it? Are they helping?
I got to say, I don't really get it, because I would think that, and I understand, like I watch YouTube channels and I have to remind myself all the time, okay, hit the like button, do all those things. And I'll watch a bunch of videos I really liked and I forgot to hit the like button. So I get it. But at the same time,
It can happen.
A lot of people are on here a lot, and I find out about people every day that you like, I never knew their handle, never saw them before, and then they comment and say, oh, I've been watching for 3 years. And I just figure, hey, if you want to keep this going, then you would put that Amazon link somewhere.
Every time I do it, I get off. I'm like, Mark just made 8 cents or something. Like if I bought something for $13, I'm like, I bet he got 8 cents. And that adds up if 100,000 people do it, you know? 8 cents times $100,000. What is 100,000? It's a lot. That's like 80,000 or something. 8,000 something, you know, just everybody has to do it. In for a penny, in for a pound. Anyhow, Mark, you need to talk to the purchasing agents for some people like Boeing, and tell Boeing when they order something online, they use your portal. You see? You know, like you can just,
Yeah.
Hey, it's legal, man.
When they
Talk
make
to
like
Kentucky Fried Chicken.
When they order a part or something, and it's, you know,
Right,
some kind
right.
of $82,000.
Right, talk to Ford. Yeah. Hey, you're an Ohio State fan. Surely there's a big corporation around you that will use your portal as an Ohio State guy, right?
Now that I'm in the Buckeye State, I should get working on these Ohio State connections. Yeah.
Surely there's a machine shop somewhere around you that will use your portal when they order shit, that machine shop, and then they can be your sponsor. It can be like sponsored by U.S. Aircraft. Or I have a friend in Ohio. He has a machine shop. All he does is make parts for airplanes, and he only sells them to major airlines like Boeing, you know? So there's all kinds of little jobs, you know, little industries. He's in Elyria. How do you say that? Ohio?
Elyria. Yep.
Elyria, yeah.
George, I think you had this idea, and a few other people had this idea, that I should go around to sports bars and let them know, hey, when you're showing ESPN, when there's no games on and you're showing ESPN, just, and they're showing reruns of whatever or ping
Absolutely.
pong.
Put my channel on.
Put my channel up there.
I agree. I agree. That's smart. That's very smart. Look,
Yeah.
you got to talk to the lazy bartender and say, "Come on, man. You got to get it down on the interpersonal level. You got to go to the bar, meet the bartender, and say, listen, dude, I can make this bar hop. This can be a jump in place. Just put my channel on the screen, and people will gather here and talk football with Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. We'll talk Iowa, Illinois, Florida, Miami, USC, Texas, Texas A&M, Alabama, Georgia, Miami. Oh, my God. Don't even get me started on Miami.
Yeah, those Miami folks.
Fucking crazy.
Yeah.
They deserve to win a national championship sometime in the next 6 years, you know.
They love those
They're just like Georgia. They got to win another one sometime. Come on. We can't let them die.
Those Miami fans are good to me. So
Fuck, they call me an honorary Miami fan, and I am, unless they're playing Florida. Other than that, I hope they beat everybody. And if we don't get to meet them in the national title game, that's our fault, you know. I hope they beat everybody but us. I love Miami. What a bunch of shit talking motherfuckers, huh? They can talk and talk and talk. You think you can talk, and I think I can talk, but we are nothing compared to a Miami fan. They can talk forever. They will wear us out.
it is.
We're the greatest that ever lived. Nick Saban is nothing compared to Manny Diaz.
Well, George, I got a line starting here.
All right, go ahead. I'll call back later. And I remembered to get my beer out of the freezer.
All right, George, have a good one, man.
I'm so happy. Talk to you later.
It's our guy, George. Before we get to this next call, we got Lemansky. Appreciate you being here. Neil Campbell takes Nevada into historic Kinnick. True. That game is coming up here. Wishing you a great trip. Thank you. We'll experience Iowa. Nice. Help us prepare for those nasty Buckeyes. There you go. All right. Next. All right. There we go. Everybody's heart skipped a beat, I'm sure. When everything's predicated and you're on a Mac and you swipe the wrong way, boy, all of a sudden you're gone. All right, let's bring in Joey Foster here, the voice of college football. Joey.
Hey, what's going on? 40 days, 21 hours, 3 minutes, and 30 seconds to the backyard brawl.
That's a good time. Yeah. I can't wait
for it, man. 40 days. I mean, we didn't think a time was going to get here fast enough, and it's coming up quick, and I like that. So I want to run something by you. So Tony Alsamore called me right when your show started, and we got to talking. And he said, I think we're looking at conference realignment wrong. So he said that that Big 12 is, obviously going to want Oregon and Washington to come in. And we might be looking at the wrong way to try to get them, because we're looking at Arizona and Colorado and thinking, okay, that might shut the Pac-12 down, and Oregon and Washington will come in. But he said, what if you took Cal and San Diego State and sewed up California, and plus brought the academics up? That would bring the academic level of the Big 12 up, and Oregon and Washington would want to come in then. And no one's really talked about that. So Cal, even though you're talking about Cal and San Diego State, it would bring the academic level up tremendously. And then maybe Oregon and Washington would want to come into the Big 12. Plus, you're sewing up California.
Interesting.
What are your thoughts?
Well, my thoughts are that San Diego State has a tremendous football program, one of the top G5 programs in the country, and of course a fan base that may get excited, or not so much a fan base, but the metro area, which is obviously a top 20 or 25 market in the country, may get excited if they're playing big time college football and not relegated to the Mountain West. Cal, it's the same thing that we talked about a few times on here with Tony concerning Stanford and Cal being in the Bay Area, huge TV market, but they're not real excited about anything. But if you start bringing games like, well, it wouldn't be the Big Ten, but in this case, you start bringing in games like UCF and Cincinnati and Oklahoma State and Baylor and West Virginia and some more interesting games into the Bay Area to take on Cal, then maybe you grab some TV sets. But from an academic standpoint, like you say, that's a no-brainer. Cal just ups the ante.
Right. And San Diego State's pretty good too. So yeah, that's an interesting thought, because that would probably bring Oregon and Washington in for Big 12, because I think their holdup is the academics. I think their holdup would be the academic standpoint. I mean, there's many factors for them, but I think academics is probably a big one. My lights are going out. So there was one more thing too, and I can't remember what it was, Mark. I was going to bring it up. Oh, I know what it was. So this is really that, we do these streams in Discord, and we've done one pretty much every night this week. We'd love for other people to join in. I mean, we would love it, and like sometimes we'll bring in somebody like last night. I brought in Golden Blue Dude with us, and we had a good time. So Mark joins us sometimes. So hey, come on in to Discord. Be sure and join the Patreon, Mark Rogers Patreon. That'll get you in Discord, and then just come in there, and we post a link right there in Discord so anybody can join in, and we have a great time. We talk. Hey, we have realigned college football to make it perfect. So many nights, and it's unreal. We've got 3 20-team conferences. We've had 3 22-team conferences. We've had 4 16-team conferences. I mean, we have just realigned college football and made it perfect so many nights. But nobody's listening to us. That's why we need you there, so that people can listen, and we can get the word out that we can solve the problem. So join us over there in Discord.
I love it, Joey. Thank you so much. Yeah, Patreon, as Joey mentioned, go to Patreon, MarkRogersTV. You sign up right there. And Joey also uses that Amazon link.
I do. I use that Amazon link a lot. My wife and I do. She orders. She loves hemp water. She orders it like crazy, and so anytime we order it, she we use your link. So I think you make probably 2 cents. So, but she orders it like 4 times a month, so you're making 8 cents like George give you. So now you're up to 16.
Beautiful.
So,
whoever's using it, it usually kicks in about 20 or 22 bucks a month.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Well, we use it. We do use it a lot. We order most everything. So yeah, we use it a lot. But so anyway, hey, appreciate you having me on, Mark. We'll see you. Hopefully you join us over in Discord if your stream ends early tonight.
I'll jump on for a few minutes.
But, sounds good, man.
Once I get done on here, man, I like to just relax. I throw on some TV. Who knows who?
Yeah, but see, that's the good thing about being in there. That's the good thing about being in there. You can just sit back and relax, realign conferences and stuff.
Yeah.
And you can actually do it and realign conferences, and you're not putting it out on YouTube, for all the world to see, and so people can point at you and say, "See, Mark Rogers was wrong." You're doing it in Discord. So, all right, we'll see you later, Mark.
For sure. All right, Joey, we'll see you. Thanks. Hey, hey. You never double click there. It also becomes an issue. So we got Lemansky here to talk some Iowa football. Look at that. He's got his helmet all lined up and everything.
How do I sound, Mark? Do I sound all right?
You sound good. Appreciate you being here. What's on your mind?
Well, I wanted to congratulate you on your achievement.
Well, thank you, sir. And thank you so much
I
for
even
your
dressed up for you.
contributions there. That's a good look right there. You know, nobody in their right mind ever said that Iowa did not have a good looking uniform.
I've got a story for you if you got the time.
We've got the time. We've got a bit of a lag going here, but we'll just be patient and you go ahead with your story and I'll kick back and listen to you.
Well, we love college football, what it stands for, and I got to give you a story what college football is all about. And I know you'll like this one. And before I start the story, just everything is good between us, even though I talk playoff. They don't talk playoffs on the Iowa channel. That's all in good fun. I just try to make you laugh once in a while. I was at the Michigan-Iowa game, #1 versus #2, back in the Chuck Long days. The night game. I was in the stands with my roommate. His dad and his friend had never seen a live college football game in their life. We went out the night before. I told my buddy, we got to get to bed. Your dad's come with his friend. We're going to tailgate all morning. It's a night game. His dad showed up at 5 a.m. and we got to bed at 3 a.m. And so
Okay.
that's the way it goes. And what happened was the game ended. Iowa won, probably the greatest game in Iowa history. And I said, let's go downtown and party. And what happened was one of Chuck Long's friends said, let's not go downtown. Let's go to the parking garage. And the parking garage, we didn't know what we were doing. I wasn't too happy. I was ready to go down and celebrate. And we walked up to this car with about 10 people, Mark. And what happened was that camper was Chuck Long's parents.
You still there, Lemansky? We've got a bit of a lag going here. Okay, are you still with us?
Yeah, I just stopped because
okay.
if things aren't right, I'll sign off, Mark. It's up to you.
Oh, that's okay. We got your story. I think we finished it. We had a bit of a lull there.
Well, I didn't finish it, but what it was at this camper, the people at the camper were Chuck Long's parents, and he had this brother that had a learning disability. So you talk about what's great about college football players, what they stand for. Instead of going out with the team and celebrating the biggest victory in probably his entire college career, he went to his family in the parking garage, had to drive back to Wheaton, Illinois. And I got to spend a few minutes with Chuck Long and his family celebrating what college football is all about. And I think with all this change and we fear the future, I still think that character of college football players is still with us. And hopefully that integrity and those values will carry us forward. We'll come out on the other side in good shape. And I'll sign off because there's a lag. It's probably my technology. And congratulations on your achievement. I'll sign off.
Lemansky, thank you so much for your support. Appreciate that. All right, we got two folks on the line. Let's get to these two, and we'll wrap it up right there here at the Voice of College Football. Sean's coming in here.
Mark.
Sean, what's going on?
Hey.
Who you got with you?
My son was listening. George, kids are listening, man. No, just kidding. Well, he just wanted to tell you he went to Purdue last year for his first game. What happened to the other team?
They lost.
They lost. Yes, right.
The other team lost. Yeah.
So yeah, if you could see behind me, we got the OHIO going with my kids and the wife here in the family room, and
that's a good look.
Oh, sorry, a phone's kind of weird.
Okay.
Yeah.
Where was that taken?
So what?
Where was that taken?
Do you know where Caesars Creek is, Ohio? Kind of Waynesville. Do you know where that's at?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah. So we're from Centerville. So, but we just wanted to congratulate you on your big 100,000 subscribers, and my son's gonna sing you a little song to
Nice.
lighten the night up, and also to stick it a little bit to Steve Deese. Go right ahead. We don't give a darn for the whole state of Michigan, the whole state of Michigan, the whole state of Michigan. We don't give a darn for the whole state of Michigan. We're from Ohio. Have a good one.
Sweet.
Have a good one.
Thanks, buddy. Thanks, Sean. Appreciate it. All right. That livened up the night right there. Little family atmosphere. OHIO. That was phenomenal. All right, let's get so we got 3 on the line. Yes, we got 3 on the line. Let's go with those 3. And of course, this never fails. This is always the great indicator that it's time to close things down, is that our final call is from, and I'll not say anything else. You can fill in the blank. Our final call will be from, as is typically apropos. But before that, we got Will.
Hey, Mark, congratulations on 100K. You deserve it, man. You're the hardest worker on YouTube.
Well, I appreciate that. It's probably not the case, but some people think that. How are you doing tonight?
Doing good. I just got back from the baseball game with some friends. It was fun.
What
Who
baseball
do you
game
think? Just minor league, the Flying Squirrels, but it was fun.
Okay, cool.
So what do you think is more likely to happen? Alabama or Georgia don't win the SEC. Clemson doesn't win the ACC. Or Ohio State doesn't win the Big Ten. Who do you think's more? What do you think's more likely?
Okay. The most likely of those 3 is Ohio State does not win the Big Ten. And then the second most likely is Clemson does not win the ACC. And then the last would be, because you gave me 2, between Alabama and Georgia, they've got that conference for as good as the rest of the conferences. I'm about 90. This is the one time I can agree with the FPI at 97% or whatever the number is. Georgia, Alabama.
Yeah. And I just saw this in the chat. I don't know if this is actually going to happen, but I heard that Urban Meyer might be coming back to Florida. Like, I don't think that will happen, but that'll be wild if it did happen. All of his baggage back in Gainesville.
In the chat, Will.
I said it was Tim, so I'm like, it has some credibility if Tim says it. I trust him.
That I'll take you up on that. That I will agree with. That Tim's pretty reasonable. Now, I will say, if we become more powerful than 100,000, we may have to maybe add another 0 to where we can start spreading rumors, and then people will start. It'll start to become like a national rumor that people will actually believe. You know, they'll be talking about it on like Fox and ESPN that we're hearing that Urban Meyer's in negotiations with Florida. You know, just because somebody here started it.
And I don't have that much else, but just another rest in peace to Notre Dame legend Jim Lynch, a middle linebacker, college football Hall of Famer, Super Bowl winner with the Chiefs.
Yeah, absolutely.
And a member of that 1966 national championship team. So rest in peace to Jim Lynch, and congrats again, Mark. I hope hopefully these last 2 callers have some good stuff.
Well, I appreciate that, Will. Have a good night, and we'll talk soon.
Join the Discord, people. Join the Discord.
Discord. Yes. Yeah. Will's there.
All right. Good night, Mark.
Hey, Will. We'll see you. Thanks. All right. Some people click themselves out. See, what happens sometimes when you see it go woo woo like that is because usually people stay on the line even after they say goodbye, and I click them off. But if I click them off at the same time they click themselves off, then it kind of shoots back to the next call, which is coming up right here. We got Dr. C on the line.
Hey, how's it going, Mark? Can you hear me?
I gotcha. How's it going?
Fantastic. I'm doing well. Congrats on all the success. 100,000 and many more to go.
I appreciate that. Thank you. It's good to hear from you. What's going on tonight?
I wanted to get your take on this, and I know, with the craziness of conference realignment and everything that's going on, and I don't want to say the word, but that one that, because I know they say it demonetized if you say the C word, the illness.
Yes.
So if you could put it in a percentage, or how big of a factor do you think that played a role in all this mess, as far as like people getting fearful and going, hey, listen, because when this hit and, you saw the SEC, hey, we're playing, then the Pac-12 were not, and then the Big Ten were not, everyone looked after each other, after themselves, rather than each other.
Yeah.
It wasn't a unified front. Was it then? I think to myself, did the individual universities start to kind of, going, hey, listen, we don't know where this is going. Potentially, we need to really secure ourselves, so how big of a role do you think this played in all this? And I started thinking about this the other day. I'm going, hey, I wonder if this, if the thing was already in people's minds, maybe about, hey, there's a possibility, but it didn't really happen until this came about. What do you think about that?
Well, I'm not going to pretend to have some kind of eloquent delivery or speech or prepared for you on this, but I have a lot of scattered thoughts. And one would be that I've said this many times, that the COVID situation, and I'll say the word because I've said it many times and it's never demonetized a video, so I think we're okay.
Okay.
But I appreciate you looking out for me. That I think that was the great indicator of who these conferences are, what they are, and how they're going to act under stress and urgency. And the SEC basically said, we're not ignoring this, but we are in the business of playing football, and therefore we're going to approach this the way we approach everything, with a ton of money, a ton of resources, organization. We're going to do all the testing. We're going to do all the things that are required, but we are planning on playing football. We were full throttle, full go, and never wavered toward our mission of playing football. The ACC and the Big 12 followed suit, but you wonder what stance they would have taken had the SEC taken a different stance, because they just seem to kind of follow the SEC's lead. The Pac-12 was, of course, on the complete opposite end, and just determining that, well, football is not important. What's important is safety, health, and that we do, and I'm going to say this, that we do what appears to be right, or we're going to give the appearance of doing those things that are supposed to be good and in order. So we're going to do that. The Big Ten was the most conflicted of all the conferences, because what that showed me, and I think we already knew it, is there's the greatest gap between the thought process of the administrators, the elites at the top, the Board of Regents, the presidents, those people, and everybody else. And so the people that have the most power and make the most money and have the decision-making power, they were in the camp of the Pac-12, but the masses in the Big Ten, in Big Ten country, were for playing football. So that eventually won out. So yeah, none of these cooperated. Now, when Greg Sankey came out a couple weeks ago and admitted to actually reviewing and having playoff proposals brought to the table that consisted of just the SEC, I think much of that was probably drilled into his head from the 2020 season, that for a time, it appeared as though maybe the SEC, first of all, they only play themselves, so they only had SEC schedules only. And I produced a video when it looked like there was a possibility that the SEC would be the only conference that would play. And I thought, this might be the SEC's opportunity to say, we can kind of hold the sport on our shoulders and save college football fans from having a season and show them that we're going to play our own season and our champion's a legit champion anyway. So that, not that it didn't transpire, it didn't come to fruition, but that thought process probably has stayed, well, I think it's pretty obvious, has stayed with the SEC that, hey, we're self-sufficient. That's the initial thoughts that come to mind.
What do you, if you could put it to a percentage, what would you guess that how it affected college football as far as realignment or anything like that? Do you not think it played a big role?
I think it played a role. I think it maybe pushed things a little bit along a little bit quicker, like a USC and UCLA seeing that the Pac-12 would go through a season and play 3 and 4 games and really not play a significant season. But I just think that money, nothing that we see post-COVID is any different than pre-COVID when it comes to the power structure in the sport. That didn't change anything. The Pac-12 just showed its weakness, but we already knew where the Pac-12 was. The TV contracts are the same. So, these moves are being made based on money more than anything. And that power structure hasn't changed because of that season.
Yeah, great point. And I got one just, I guess, quick, because I haven't talked to you in a while, but I'm Arkansas USC fan, both teams. Yeah. And USC obviously Big Ten now, and I hated the move traditionally.
Sure.
However, I was hearing Matt Leinart speak, and I think it's good for the football program. I don't know about any other sport, but because I remember watching, that Fresno State USC game that was nuts. That I forget this. It was an absolute. Reggie Bush won that game in one of the most phenomenal performances of any player. Yet no one in the Midwest or the East Coast outside. I mean, the game ended like 11:30 my time, and I was in California, right? But who in Florida is going to stay up to watch USC play Fresno State till 1 o'clock in the morning, right? Or what writer, when writers mattered more for the BCS back in the day. But I think finally people are going to start seeing USC football. And finally, because of that, even kids on the West Coast are going to start seeing USC football again, because you want to see USC play Penn State and Wisconsin and, Ohio State. I mean, much more than you want to see USC play Arizona, Washington State. It's going to draw so many more eyeballs to the USC football brand. And I mean, I'm one of those guys that still believes that USC can win a title recruiting locally. I mean, Southern California can go toe-to-toe with any place in the country when it comes to football players. There might be, a section here or there. But, I mean, you've got, Cal Poly out there. You've got Mater Dei. Who beats Mater Dei in football? They beat IMG, which now they won't let them do anymore because IMG they're illegal schools according to, like, California now. They won't let them play. But Mater Dei, a private school in California, beat a football factory on the field. I mean, those are the kind of teams that are out there. And what is it? I think 4 out of the 5 Heisman finalists this year are all from the Los Angeles area. I mean, you have a recruiting hotbed that has been going to the SEC.
Yeah.
So, you know what? I'm excited for the next couple of years for the Trojans.
Well, Dr. C, to your previous point, let me ask you this. As it currently stands, as a USC fan, who are you excited to see USC play in the Pac-12 this year?
In the Pac-12 this year? I mean, are they playing Oregon? That would be the only one.
They don't have Oregon on the schedule, but
yeah,
if they played everybody,
if they played everyone, it'd only be Oregon, honestly.
Oregon, maybe
Utah,
maybe. So that's
Utah, yeah. But Utah doesn't really excite me, even though I know it's a great team. It just doesn't have the brand.
And for me, who do I want to see? I want to see USC play everybody. I'll tell you the teams I don't care if I see USC play in the Big Ten. And it's pretty much just like Rutgers, Illinois, Northwestern, Maryland, Indiana. That's about it. Everybody else, I want to see USC play Minnesota, Wisconsin, State, Michigan State, Ohio State, all of them. They're, 2/3 of the conference. I will be juiced to see USC play those teams.
Well, as we saw, USC carried the Pac-12.
Yeah.
I mean, it was USC and everyone else, and that's the reality. I mean, UCLA's come. I don't know how UCLA got, I mean, they were part of that deal. But if the Big Ten, why didn't they just take USC? I don't know. I don't see the value in getting UCLA.
No?
I mean, it's got some, not really. I mean, it's a solid brand, yes, but I mean, what has UCLA done for football in the last 10 years?
Well, it's not all about football.
Yeah, basketball.
Well, it's not all about basketball. It's about bringing a rival with USC.
Mm-hmm.
So you're maintaining one of the 5 or 6 best rivalries in college football. And I just think that pairing makes total sense culturally and in regards to scheduling the other sports, not football so much, but having a team, a school to pair with USC.
Sure.
I think it just makes total sense, and it keeps the rivalry going. You bring the Rose Bowl Stadium to the Big Ten. The academics at UCLA are exceptional. Top 10 public school in the nation.
Do you see the Big Ten expanding here in the next year or two to grab one more or 2 more Pac-12 teams?
If Notre Dame says yes, I would have answered this question differently right after we heard about USC and UCLA. But now that I see the Big Ten holding its Oregon and Washington at arm's length, I'm wondering why. And the only conclusion I can come to is that the Notre Dame decision and who Notre Dame wants to join them in the Big Ten is causing the Big Ten. Otherwise, why would you want to create ill will with 2 schools that you're going to bring into your conference and piss them off by saying, hang on, we're waiting for Notre Dame? Or if the Big Ten was going to definitely turn down Oregon and Washington, why wouldn't they just do it?
Yeah, yeah, that's a great point. I mean, the schools to take are Oregon and Washington, I believe. But Cal and Stanford would not be a horrible thing either.
So yeah, this may not go well with Oregon and Washington fans, but if I'm the Big Ten, I'm going to take my first 2 pairing is Notre Dame and Stanford.
Oh yeah, that's perfect. I mean, they've been rivals forever.
Yeah.
Awesome. Hey, Mark, I really appreciate your time and answering my questions. You're not just the voice of college football, but you're the voice of the college football fan. So I appreciate you.
That's very nicely said. Dr. C, we appreciate you being here. Call back anytime.
Thank you. Have a great night.
That was Dr. C on the line. That was well stated. He's got a nice voice, too. We should probably have him cut a promo for us. All right. Yeah, Stanford and Notre Dame. That Stanford academic institution into the Big Ten. And I know Stanford sucks at football right now, but that's not forever. We're talking about a team that was ranked in the top 5 to 10 in the nation pretty much 2010 into 17. They can win in football. All right. We got Tim to close us down tonight. Hey, Tim.
Hey, Mark. How you doing?
I'm good. What's going on?
I'm just sitting in awe of Dr. C. I could listen to that guy all day long. He's speaking my music. I love it. Talking up them Trojans.
Hey,
I'm wondering, though, it must have been really hard for him when USC played Arkansas in the 2000s. You know, I'm wondering which team. He seems like he's more of a USC fan than Dr. C. Sounds like a little more of a USC fan than an Arkansas fan.
You guys really clocked them twice. I remember like a 50-14 score in one of those games.
I remember being terrified of Darren McFadden coming in those games. He was tearing it up.
I gotta look this up. Yeah, keep going, but I'm gonna look up these games because.
Well, I just want to say congratulations. That's why I really called. But then Dr. C just got me going. And then Will, yes, come on, you should know me by now. I was absolutely joking. I wanted to see George's reaction on camera when I put up that fake alarm that Meyer was coming back to Florida. Sorry, I probably should have clarified that was just a joke. I should have let it percolate so long. My bad, Will. Sorry about that. I did like what you guys were talking about, but you know, I think the whole thing, I don't think it was the C word. I don't want to get you demonetized. As much as I just saw that ESPN and Fox both took advantage of really poor choices. Obviously, ACC was really nervous about losing members, so the ESPN was able to lock him into that long-term deal. That was strike one. Then you have programs like USC and Washington making bad hiring decisions, you know, and really killing the Pac-12. Oregon tried to hold up their end, but I mean, they weren't really able to take it over the edge. And so that was strike two. And then with the COVID thing, I like Tony. You've had Tony on a couple of times, and he really has brought home to me just what the difference is in that, why the SEC lined up to play those games. He showed like the numbers, how dependent the SEC schools are on football money, on football revenue. Whereas you look at the Pac-10 and Pac-12 and the Big Ten, and it's just really a drop in the bucket to those being the giving and everything that they have. So
yeah, that is a great stat. So for anyone who does not follow Tony Altimore on Twitter, it's TJ Altimore, ALTIMORE. Go there and you can find all these charts. And what Tim is alluding to is not just the revenue that all the schools bring in for football, but what is that percentage of the total revenue of the school? So like Ohio State obviously is a football factory that's bringing in a ton of money in football, as much or more than anyone, but they're bringing in so much money as a school, it's not nearly as high a percentage as most of the teams in the SEC, for example.
Yeah. And so that was a big part. So looking at that conversation, I mean, it was interesting. I'd like to hear you guys, and that was a great conversation, but that just drew it back to those two comments. But I just think that Fox and ESPN waited for the weak moment. Football was weak, you know what I mean? Football was kind of knocked down. It wasn't as strong as it would have been maybe 10 years ago. And they took their shot, and it worked by pulling the trigger, you know, putting a little fear in. You know, I've also just more and more, I've been just listening to the Big 12 talk about, you know, right now, what they're doing a year ago and what's going on right now. The Big 12 to me has always been just this really unsteady conference, you know, where it's just like, it just seems like people are coming and going, and it's just really, you know, it's just kind of this, I don't know, maybe I'm being too harsh, but Oklahoma and Texas said, yeah, we're out. And they went. And that just was the domino that really got everything moving. And I guess eventually, I know that football was going to survive. Everyone's freaking out about NIL. Remember that? Freaking out about the portal. I think all of that would have eventually settled down. But what tore the fabric of college football is just the realignment of these conferences. We're going to lose the Power 5. It's going to be the Power 2. And then it's just going to erode a lot of what I think football used to be. I don't think that schools like Oregon, you know, are going to disappear. I don't think the bigger schools in the Big 12 and the ACC are going to, you know, I don't think Clemson's worried. You know what I mean? No. But I'm saying in the long run, the way this thing is shaping up, it's just going to, over time, 60 million $40 million difference in revenue every single year is just going to be too much for these larger programs that are on the outside to fit. But I mean, I'm holding on for, I just can't see Notre Dame join the ACC. That makes no sense when you can join your, three biggest natural rivals in playing every year, playing USC, playing Michigan State, and playing Michigan every single year. It's just the right fit, for them to join. So that's my other thought on just the whole realignment thing. I'm not sure what you think.
Yeah, I'm still intrigued by Stanford because not a whole lot of people are playing along with Stanford and bringing them into the Big Ten. But that was my initial thought, Notre Dame, Stanford, and Tony seemed to be on with that as well as a big possibility.
And then naturally following through would be Washington, Oregon. I mean, that's going to be that right there is a solid coast to coast football league, if that's the right direction that they do want to go. If the Big Ten obviously no longer is the Midwest, then that's your natural progression, because in all respect to the DMV market and to the New York market, those schools aren't on the level of even Stanford, let alone Washington and Oregon. So, I mean, looking at the Pac-12, what's going to be very soon, and the fact that Oregon and Washington, for some reason, are reticent to join the Big 12, that tells you some things as well. I think that they are on the back burner. I think it's going to happen. You look like you're not as certain of that, but I really think that eventually it's going to be Oregon and Washington coming as well. Because otherwise, here's one thing. I'm being selfish as a USC fan. We get 4 or 5 teams out west, and it makes it so it's kind of an east-west kind of split situation. So it's not, the travel becomes a lot more bearable for everybody, And then you have a situation where you can market the Rose Bowl as the championship game, where you're having SEC is your competition. That's fine. They're in the South, but you're marketing the East versus the West, almost like a national league, conference instead of a very localized conference that the SEC is going to have.
Sure. So I posted a video where I brought Oregon and Washington in. I split the conference into four team divisions, or 2 4s and 2 5s, 4 divisions. And yeah, you've got a natural Western division there with Oregon, Washington, USC, UCLA. And then this travel situation doesn't become so crazy because you're playing 3 of the 9 conference games right there. And then you're traveling otherwise, but you're playing everyone in your division first and foremost. And that's the base of your schedule. And that makes total sense to me.
And I know you've always pushed back, jumping categories again, but you've always pushed back on, you and I have gone around a couple of times about the importance of California recruiting. And wow, I didn't realize that how many of the, no, I didn't say you didn't. Okay, no, sorry. I'm not putting words in your mouth. I'm saying I've heard national media, not particularly just you, talk about the importance of percentage of talent compared to just raw numbers of talent. And there's also been a lot of people talking about that there aren't offensive and defensive linemen. The difference, and I really like this, I know you've had Ryan Abraham on your channel before. He talked about all the time, Gerard Martinez, actually, more specifically, his recruiting guy, says very clearly that there's a different type of lineman on the West Coast. They're not these ready-made dudes coming out of Georgia and Louisiana, It's not like that. They're not already 6'7", 325 right out of high school. They're usually more like that tight end looking dude who's kind of athletic, right? But he has the frame, but he's going to spend 2 or 3 years putting on that weight. You got to kind of bring him along and develop him. So there are those linemen, and they make their way into the NFL. If you look at NFL rosters, there are NFL roster guys that are from California. They're offensive linemen, offensive tackles specifically. So it's really a different type of lineman. But when you talk about guys like Bijan Robinson, you talk about Stroud and Young, all these guys are from Southern California. And in a different world, if we had Riley, 5 years ago, how many of those guys would be on USC's roster? And that's what I guess maybe Dr. C and some of those Trojan fans are thinking about. We're remembering when Pete had it rolling, and we were keeping all those dudes and then grabbing guys like Lindale White from Chicago and getting Cushing from New Jersey and, just guys from all over the place. Mike Williams from Florida. that's when USC is rolling, and that's the goal and that's the hope.
So that all makes sense in regards to when you start to roll off those kind of names, and those guys are the best players in the sport. I made a face while he made that statement about Southern California supporting USC. Not that USC can't live in Southern California, recruit there, and pretty much build 90% of its team or 80% of its team there and win. I can't answer that question. I just know that California high school football has declined. And I say that based on recruiting rankings. So 5 years ago, 10 years ago, the elite players were split almost evenly between Florida, Texas, and California. Those three states comprised 40% of the top 300 players in the nation every year, like clockwork. And now Georgia's slipped past California. Like if you go to the list of the top high school football players in the state of California for, let's say, this year, last year, about the last 3 to 4 years, and then going ahead to 2023, and you look at California and you count up the number of 4-stars in the state versus what it was 10 years ago, it's dropping. And Georgia's is skyrocketing. Even Alabama's, you don't think of Alabama as taking off from a population standpoint, but Alabama, if you take the conversation from here, I'm going to start looking up some of these numbers because I was surprised.
Well, and Georgia and Atlanta, the Atlanta area, not just Atlanta itself, but the Atlanta area is blown up population wise. So I get you. But here's what I got to say to that. My counter to that is you're going off what? Rivals, 247, all these guys, right?
Yeah.
Sure. Let me run something past you. You know that Tackett Curtis, right? The linebacker that we were going. Yeah. He was the number 90 player in the country, right?
Yeah.
He commits to USC. What happened at the day he committed to USC? The day he committed to USC, he dropped 32 spots to 123 in the 247 rivals.
Well, I can't account for that. I have no idea.
No. What I'm saying though is these literally, if you look at USC's recruiting class, every single dude on there, except for Zachariah Branch, who's just the best receiver in the country.
Yeah.
Every single SC recruit dropped. That Bama bump stuff is real. It's proven statistically every year. And so if you're going off of what they do is they look at who the offers are coming from. If you get an offer from Kirby Smart, yeah, dude, if I'm a guy and I'm in a recruiting service, if Kirby Smart wants you, you're probably a good freaking athlete. If Ryan Day wants you, you're probably a really good athlete. If Nick Saban wants you, you're probably a really good athlete. Where are a lot of these recruits coming from? A lot of these recruits are coming from the South. And so therefore, that's why the Florida, the Georgia, the Alabama bump is happening as well, because those are the programs that are being are recruiting them and giving them offers. And so they're higher rated than the California players. But Mark, if you take a look at the number of California players that are in the NFL, California players that are drafted, that whole majority going to Florida and Georgia being the majority, and then US and then California is like way down, it levels out a lot because there's a lot of talent that comes from California that makes it to the NFL. So the recruiting services, I'm really starting to lose a little bit of faith in them over the years. I really got behind 247 for a long time. Rivals used to be my favorite, and then it was 247, but all of them are just extremely flawed. And even if you look at the composite, that's a whole other thing. But what's driving them is where they're being recruited, who they're being recruited by. So I don't know. I don't put too much faith in well, this state has this many, and this state has this many. Look at USC. You was talking about modern day. Who? Dr. C?
Sure, he was.
Okay, go ahead. Sorry, so you had the stats on the South, right?
And you have to put some level of faith, some pretty high level of faith in those recruiting rankings, because those are still the recruiting rankings that are producing the numbers that show us that Ohio State and Alabama and Georgia, et cetera, are going to be the best teams. So they have to continue to be valid rankings if they're showing us if there's a direct correlation between best players and best teams. So they're obviously valid to a large degree.
But think about it. It's almost like circular reasoning. You're saying that the rankings are good because the best teams. See, that's what I'm saying to you. You're right. Those ranking services are saying these guys are really good, but that doesn't mean they're the top 50 players. That's if you get like 30 of the top 300 players, right? And I get like 10 of the top 300 players, that doesn't mean that the rankings are wrong. It just means you got more of them than I did. And I know that these guys evaluate way better than the services. I know that Nick Saban and Kirby Smart know who they're getting. But what I'm saying is when we justify the fact that the best teams have the best players, therefore the best players are rated this way, it doesn't necessarily mean that, because there's coaching involved and there's development involved and there's etc. There's a lot of things that are involved in that. Saying that they are great just because so-and-so gave them an offer, therefore we're going to bump them in the rankings, we're lower these guys because their team's not going to be that good, doesn't mean there aren't really great players on bad teams, Mark. Do you know what I mean? And that's what happens. That's why we get these 3 stars that get drafted into the NFL, because they end up going to Wake Forest, but they're really, really talented, but they get marked as a 3-star because they didn't get an offer from Kirby. They went to Wake Forest. They were sleeper. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying that the top rated, you and I can take a list of all the measurables and all their offers and tell you who the top team, right? And we look at whoever, all these SEC teams and Ohio State and Clemson and who these programs are recruiting. You and I can make a list of just those guys alone and be pretty damn close to who are the best players. You know what I mean? But it doesn't mean that they're the top of the top. That's my only argument.
So here's an NFL list of players coming from these particular states. This is as of 2020. So we're fairly up to date here. Florida 194, Texas 192, California 170. So that's really close. And then it drops off to Georgia 134, Ohio 71, Alabama 60, etc. Pennsylvania 60. Okay. So that would back up your claim. However, I would want to see this. So we're also talking about guys that have been in the NFL 7, 8, 10 years. I want to see this list in 5 years, 6 years, 7 years. Because again, and I know you're not putting a lot of stock in this, but Georgia's got 4 in the 2022 class. Georgia has 4 5-stars. California has 1. That's such a low number. I don't think that's important. But Georgia has 45 4-stars and California has 30. And that's been the trend just very recently.
Again, I'm just going to say that I'm not saying that they're worthless. I think that there is a metric they use. Again, they're looking at who is recruiting them. There's going to be a lot more guys on the East Coast that Georgia and Alabama are going to go after compared to guys on the West Coast. That's just going to be really, and when you think about it, the West Coast programs have sucked. Therefore, if you're recruited by a West Coast team, you're not given the kind of credit you'd get if you're getting an offer from those schools. I agree, Mark. I think there is a hell of a lot of talent in the South. I'm not saying that, especially along the defensive line, especially ready-made offensive linemen. But to say that Southern Cal, again, we just named off all the, Olave, right? He's from California. I mean, I can go on and on and on about if USC just picked these guys that were from Southern California and put them on their team, we'd have an all-star team, And then you got to go out and pick, and also remember I was talking about USC's offensive line. We just our center out of the blue. He's a Remington. He's up for the Remington, and then our left guard. I was forgetting his name. Voorhees. He's like the number 1 interior lineman in the country on some of the new things coming out right now. So I'm telling you, I think our offensive line is really going to surprise. Really going to surprise. So. Anyway, this is going on. Oh, and one more thing. Sorry, we went back to this. Dr. C talked about who's going to beat Mater Dei, who has been on a roll. You know who beats Mater Dei? My alma mater, St. John Bosco, who also is probably 1 and 2 with Mater Dei over the past 6-7 years as the 2 best college football teams, and they're both in Southern California in the same league. And then we got Servite and a couple other ones. So we play ball out here on the West Coast. Anybody who follows high school football knows Servite, Mater Dei, and St. John Bosco. So we got to be doing something right over here.
So how many major college players will one of those schools produce in 1 year?
A ton. Bosco and Mater Dei have at least one or two 5-star guys every single year. every single year, 5-star players. And there's only like 30 of them. Going off the top of my head, there's DJ Ungulale. I always mess that name up. His younger brother, who's going to be in class next year.
Sure.
You had Bryce Young before that. Let's see who else. Those are all, by the way, those are all from Mater Dei and from Bosco. Gosh, who else? You guys got an offensive lineman about 4 or 5 years back. I forgot his name. He was a 5-star offensive lineman. Went to Ohio State. A lot. I don't know off the top of my head. I'm not that much of a recruiting. I mean, I love it, but I'm not that much of a recruiting geek. But a lot, Mark. I'd say, again, from those two schools I named, you're going to get at least one 5-star every single year. There's not many high schools that can say that. There's only like 30 or so 5-stars in the whole country. And one or two are coming from 2 schools every year. But 4 stars, tons. And of the programs, there's a number of 4 stars that are going to Power 5 schools from those 2 schools, at least like 8 to a dozen a year. So there's a lot of talent coming off those 2 schools. As a matter of fact, a lot of the local press want to make it to where there's 2 different championships, one for the private schools and one for the public schools. So they want to split it in half, which is interesting.
All right, Tim. I appreciate it.
Sure, and you guys remember, everyone that's is invited to Discord after chat. I'll drop the link in as soon as the show's over.
Very cool. And our show is going to be over in just a few seconds. But I want to thank Kyle. I want to thank Tim. Tim, thank you so much for the support, of course, and being the ringleader, along with others, One Scoop John and others, Exploring with Ben. We had all sorts of good people on here that joined us on Discord, Willie and others. And Kyle Pickett, thank you so much for the contribution. Haven't seen you in a while, Kyle. Thank you so much for that. That's very nice of you. And, you're always welcome and always appreciated here at the Voice of College Football. We've been going strong for 2 hours and 13 minutes. And the link to the after hours chat will be there in the chat, courtesy Tim. So join us on Discord. What you do is you go to Patreon, you search MarkRogersTV. You can sign up for Patreon right there and join us for all sorts of good stuff that I won't go into right now. But basically my picks and exclusive live streams, and these live streams that go on, the after hours parties and the watch parties that are coming up this fall during the season, and a lot of good stuff right here at the Voice of College Football. I am going to go to work sometime tonight on a number of video ideas that I've got for future days. And again, we are going to deliver as many fall camp preview live streams as I can possibly organize right now, for sure. Notre Dame, Clemson, Texas A&M. And if Michael got me some names, Purdue. How about that? Right here, the Voice of College Football. Appreciate it, everybody. 100,000. Let's keep going strong. Leave your requests, recommendations, anything that you've got. MarkRogersTV at Gmail. I'm always accessible. And we will see you soon, which probably means sometime over the weekend. But if not, Monday at noon Eastern time.